What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Kill Shot UFC, DraftKings, and FanDuel Fantasy Breakdown Spectacular. We're taking a look at UFC Fight Night, Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. It's coming up Saturday, April 28th. I've got the crew with me. MonkMMAtics back in the house, repping the South, repping Dallas, fucking Texas, some shit over there. Somewhere we call it flyover country where I'm from. It's all there's only we basically it's New York, Florida, California, flyover. That's it.
Fair enough.
That's how we do it.
It's true. I've been a flyover boy my whole life.
Man. I'm just keeping it real. Big Marley's in the house, and we're taking a look at this card. And late replacements are happening. We've got fighters dropping like flies. We're down to 9. We got a late replacement. We got a second late replacement. It's crazy. It's mass chaos. Cats and dogs living together. Complete madness. So let's get right into this, boys. We were just talking a little bit about the replacement fight, but we'll get into that in the correct order. Let's see. Do I have it on my screen? Yeah, there it is. We will get to it in correct order. So the first fight, though, on the card, and this is actually one of my favorite prize pick spots on this card. It might be gone already. I give these out. I give them out on Tuesday. It's like within 20 minutes, the number already changed on this one. But you've got Jamie Lynn Horth taking on Haley Cowan. Haley Cowan has flipped from the favorite, minus 120, to now the plus 125 underdog, which I think, personally, is a good flip. But I'm very curious to see a Big Marley, how you break this one down. Got a couple of sort of newcomer lady fighters.
Yeah, and it's our third time trying to make Haley Cowan's UFC debut here. So this time I just didn't do any Haley film, and it's kind of fading on my memory. So I might actually have to go back and look at her again. But I just remember her being a pretty good athlete, fairly well-rounded everywhere. Nothing great anywhere, though. And then now we're also making Horth's debut. And with her, I think that Cowan was more consistently okay, where Horth kind of showed flashes of good and flashes of bad. And I just don't really know what I'm going to get with her. I feel like she could finish the fight anywhere, but I also think that Cowan could just slow the fight down, kind of grind this fight up against the cage, maybe land a couple takedowns, keep the fight on the ground for a couple minutes. And then on the feet, it's kind of the same thing. Like there was times where Horth was sloppy, and then during those times, I think Cowan's going to be better. And then the best of Horth, I do think, beats Cowan, though, the regular Cowan. So I just don't know what we're going to get with Horth. I think this is probably her toughest test to date. In my opinion, it is a coin flip. I really didn't have a lean either way. So I picked the plus money side, which at the time I did my pick, that was Cowan. I got into it a little bit late. So I'm going to go ahead and take Haley in this one. But it's just not a fight I really care too much about on DraftKings. I think I'm going to try and get away from this, hope that the winner scores 60 points, and it won't even matter.
I don't know. Got to be careful. Got a couple finishers. Both of these ladies finishing fights. Monk,
yeah.
how these
only
girls
finished her fights. But I also think that Cowan is going to be tougher to finish than her original opponents. And in at least one of those fights, she was getting beat up during the fight. She was getting taken down. She got knocked down. She was getting grinded out on the ground. And then she got to finish later in the fight. And I don't think the girl that was beating her is as good as Cowan. So I don't know, man. It's a tough one.
Like I said, tough to say because it's hard to establish who's good here based on no one having fought anybody. What do you say, Monk?
Yeah, I completely agree. I got no stats for this. Cohen's stats that I do have from her Dana White Contender Series fight are trash. She scored barely 2 points a minute, less than 61 points in what would have been a decision win. I don't know. I'm probably going to try to fade this one overall. Otherwise, I don't know. It's like flipping a coin, like you guys said. So I'll probably have a bit more of Jamie Lynn Horth. At 8,300, 7,900, this is pretty much equal. So I'm not really too concerned with getting my salary savings here. I'm going to make up for that opportunity come later. But that said, This card, you don't really need to salary save. There's like 3 9K fighters, something like that. So this is pretty much a toss-up. I think this goes to decision. At least I hope it would go to decision. Like Marley said, somebody scores 60 points, and I don't have to worry about it. That would be ideal. But I'm not banking on anybody really getting a finish here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm definitely not. I'm not going to fade it. There's not enough fights on this card to really just, all of a sudden fade one fully. Like, you can't. And number two, both of these fighters, I got to give it credit. They're finishing fights and they're both scoring well. They're that magic 125/135 pound level that tends to score better than what people roster. I learned that from you, MonkMMAtics. I learned that from you. I learned it by watching you.
This one's a bantamweight, though. We like the featherweight. We like the flyweights, rather.
Well, they're kind of like flyweights that are, like I'm pretty sure this that Horth was a flyweight before she,
True, yeah,
pretended to
she's
be a
stepping up in
featherweight.
weight here for the first time, also.
Yeah, but she's got size. She's 5'7". I'm not worried about it too much. The best way I think this one comes down to is you're right. Cowan seems like just like a strong lady with good athleticism, whereas Jamie Lynn Horth seems like she's got a little bit of grappling, maybe a little bit of submission jujitsu going on in there. And whenever I see, especially a female fighter with some submission skills, and I see the other one probably doesn't seem to have that grappling, that's the edge for me. That's why it's -140 for me. That's why Horth is probably the better play here. And I'll take it at 7,900 on DraftKings. I'll take the discount. I don't mind it. I love a bargain. I'll take the discount on DraftKings. I'm on
79 is Cowan.
Oh, Cowan is the 79. Oh, they moved it the other way.
Yeah,
I don't like Cowan at all. I
do think
really
that
don't
Horth
like
has the higher ceiling.
Yeah, I much prefer Horth. So personally, that's my pick for this one. All right. So next up, we have the replacement fight, and really hasn't been a whole lot of time to analyze this. So, we'll do our best here. I did a little looking ups on McGee, and it wasn't very pretty, but neither was Newson. So, Journey Newsom, -190, taking on Marcus McGee, +165. We do have an inside the distance prop of -145. Not bad. Not bad. I'm not sure that we'll be able to directly pull up the stats on the UFC stats page, but Big Marley, late replacement. We've got now in effect 2 fighters priced well under 8K. One of which is favored.
Journey Newson, 2-1 favorite now at 7,300. So he's now our chalk of the card. He's your cash game lock at 7,300. If we don't care about ownership, he's a great play at 7,300 also. We have -145. Fight doesn't go to decision. But I think that's leaning on a knockout with both these guys. Both these guys are strikers here. I do think Newson is the better all-around striker, the more powerful guy. He looks like he's going to be taller, longer. McGee looked short to me. I didn't really get to look at his stats or anything, but he just looks short. Looks like he's got short arms. But he's, to me, just a striker only, kind of a striker brawler. The only thing I was really impressed with were his hooks. When he has guys hurt against the fence, he's good at unloading left and right hooks and getting the referee to stop in. He's got some power as well. But I don't think he's UFC ready. I just don't think he would have got this call if it wasn't a short notice, less than a week's notice type of thing. So I am going to go ahead and take Newson. I think he probably gets a knockout here. But at 7,300, he's still almost knockout or bust because I don't think he's going to go for many takedowns. He's not great at controlling the fight either. Last fight, he had 2 takedowns, and he controlled the fight for like 42 seconds. He probably would have an easier time here. I don't think that McGee looked good at all on the ground. He has 1 loss, and I watched that right before we came on. He was taken down pretty quickly. The guy had his back the entire time, got a rear naked choke. He really did absolutely nothing in that fight. I don't know that Newson has the same ground capabilities as that other guy, but I feel like he could do that because I don't know that the guy really has anything to offer on the ground. But if we get a 3-round striking match in this one, I think that's what could kill off 40% of the field on Newson. Whether he wins or not, he might not score 10x 7,300 in a decision. And if it does go to a decision, I'm not completely sold that he's going to win either. I think he is the better fighter all around. But if McGee can land some hard shots and unload those combos that he likes to land, I mean, that could also look good on the judges' scorecards. So I am going to take Newson. I don't really have any interest in McGee. I think he's probably knockout or bust to score 100 points also. But if Newson's 40+% owned, I might try to get away from it.
Got to give it to McGee, Monk, that, my guy is definitely knocking people out, but, they're not very good. A lot of losing records.
Yeah. Excuse me, 100%. 100%. You're accurate on that. Their strength of schedule is not even close. Journey Newson's strength of schedule is 73 out of 100, which is a decent number. You want it to seed at about 70. Marcus McGee in his last 5, 57.36. So there's a vast difference in their strength of schedules, as you would expect here. Short notice. I hate playing those short notice guys, especially when it's like a number of days instead of weeks. You know what I mean? That said, I do love some alliteration. So Marcus the Maniac McGee is just a lot of fun to say. So you got to like that. Bottom line is here, and I think actually Marley said something, he looks short. That may be true. According to UFC stats, and they have been known to lie, especially with listing fighters as taller. He's listed at 5'8" compared to 5'5" for Journey Newson. So he could be the bigger guy here. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage as well. He's probably going to be $7K, $6,900, something like that. In my opinion, this fight now becomes a must-play fight. Like Marley said, I think Newson, you should expect his ownership to be north of 40%. So I will probably be contrarian here and go 2-1 on Marcus McGee, no matter what. I don't think Journey Newson's that good. Yes, he beat Fernie Garcia. I hold no stock in that. I don't know if Marcus McGee is any good either. So I think this one is probably going to end early. And the last stat I'll give you, 81% of the time there's an unnatural salary, meaning some salary changes during the week and it comes in lower than originally planned. 81% of the time, one of those fighters is optimal since 2021. So I would advise you to get this fight in your lineup. I would also advise you to be contrarian, but as long as you're playing it, you got a good shot, I think. Because basically, somebody could easily make optimal lineup at 7,300 in a decision. You score 80 points, you're optimal because you're only $7,300. So it's just the doors are wide open for the possibilities of either fighter making the optimal lineup here.
Yeah, increase the odds when it's fewer fights on the card as well. So,
Absolutely.
We're not dealing with a 13 or 14 fight card. We're dealing with, 11, maybe 10. So
you figure one of these guys is going to make optimal at 73 is the ceiling.
Yeah.
I mean, that opens the doors for everybody.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, typically I would agree. It's just the issue is that he's going to be the highest owned fighter on the entire card. And that's my...
Yep.
That's why
I'm saying go 2-1 the other way. You go 2-1 McGee to Newson. Whoever's owned more, just fade them more.
I think I'm just going to try and get away from the fight, hope that it goes to the third round. And if that's the case, I just don't think that either one of them are going to score well. So if we can get other fights that score 90 points or more, I think this fight is off of the optimal.
I think one of the things to keep in mind with this fight, and it is a good one to talk a little bit more about than usual, is this card, there are other fights. Like, we're not dealing with a card that has like 6 -300 or better. And where it doesn't look like underdogs will win. There are multiple underdogs on this card that look like they've got a reasonable chance to win, including in the main event. So, it's going to take that. If 3 underdogs win, like what happened last week, if all the underdogs win, like what happened last week, then this kind of fight, no matter who wins it, goes to decision, or maybe it puts up an 80 in decision, doesn't get there. But I do warn that I believe that Newsom, he does have takedowns in his repertoire, hasn't been able to use it because these guys who he's been fighting in the UFC are better than him. So he wasn't able to use it, but he does have it in the repertoire. Like, he's done it. He's got submissions in the repertoire. I would also note that his win-loss record is not that much better than McGee's, because as soon as Newsom got to the UFC and started fighting decent opponents, he's losing. I mean,
he's only beat Fernie Garcia in his last 4.
Outside of the Fernie.
He did knock out Pilarte in like the first minute. He was probably a slate breaker on that one.
Was that marijuana or was
that was the marijuana?
steroid?
That's right.
Yeah,
that was a win.
Marijuana.
And you know what? Domingo Pilarte, he had some hype. I'm not going to say he's good because he did not turn out, but he at least came in with some hype. So he had a lot of wins. So you know what? That's enough for me. I got Newsom here. I'm going with it. But obviously, that's stupid and obvious, and he's minus 200, and he's going to be cheap. You got to get exposure to it. Just do. Tournaments, of course, you can get away from it, but you got to get exposure to that situation. There's just no getting away from those. And Monk, you're right. Like, I've tried to get cute with those a lot of times, and they're hitting 81% of the time, like you said. Like, it's just like every time you kind of try to get cute with that, it hasn't really worked out yet. Although that doesn't mean past situations are indicative of future scenarios.
If dogs don't win, that means memory. I think that a lot of these recent ones that have happened, we probably had a grappler have the advantage. But I remember one of the first ones was Giga Chikadze. He was like 7,100, and then he became like minus 400, something like that. And I said, I don't care if he's 7,100 and he's minus 1,000. If he doesn't knock this guy out, he's not going to be on the optimal lineup. And I think I was right. And he was like 70% owned. This kind of reminds me of that. Like Newson's not as good as Giga, but he's almost the same style where we just aren't going to expect a whole lot of grappling from him. And he's also not high volume. He's only landing 33% of his strikes also, which is not good at all. So I just think that if this gets extended, he's not going to score enough minute to minute to equalize not only his salary, but the ownership is just, to me, disgusting. It's going to be gross ownership on a guy who's not that good.
But again, what if Newsom goes for takedown? What if this guy is so bad?
Yeah, he could. I mean, he could do that, and he could also knock him out in the first round. Like, he has 100-point potential for sure. Yeah, man, but if you told me he was 20%, sure, I'm going 75. But if he's 50%, I'd rather just be on 20 or fade.
I'm fine with that. Like, he might be 65% owned. Like, we could get above 50% ownership on a minus 200 for that price. So I don't know that I want to. If it's gonna be 60%, you don't think so?
No, I do. I think that if that happens, it's gonna. I don't think it should happen, but it probably will.
Yeah, no, I think it will. And so people want that free square.
Yep.
And so, am I going over the field on that with this guy? If this was Marab, at mispriced, I'm going all in. But this is Journey Newsom, who's not that good.
Just go 2-1 on the other guy, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and again, it's Journey Newsom. He's not that good.
Journey Newsom, not good. Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody will own McGee at all. He'll be
exactly. If something crazy happens, all of a sudden you've got an optimal fighter at 7K, and you got a shitload of it.
I think McGee is totally playable. Like I said, the people who have watched him fight and around him, like, this is a striker. He's pretty wild.
Yep.
I haven't had a chance to watch the tape, so we'll see.
Newsom's got a suspect chin too. He just needs one.
I'm fine with it. Journey Newsom, So I will have exposure to this fight, of course. Again, there's very few fights on this card, and there are some fights that really look gross. So yeah, I'll have exposure to it. But yeah, maybe flip a little bit, get a little exposure to the other, to the plus 165. Newsom is not that heavily favored, considering this fight is a 3-day short notice fight either. So that is like, this guy might be favored against Newsom if they were.
Yeah, he got bet down immediately by like 150 points.
Yeah, somebody likes what he's up to anyway, or I guess. So I don't see that number, but I guess that whatever it opened at, I don't know where that was. All right. Next up, we've got Stephanie Edgar taking on Irina Alexeva. Now, Stephanie Edgar is minus 300, massive favorite here. One of the biggest favorites on the card. Yeah, just about second biggest favorite on the card here. And the comeback on Alexeva plus 250. This is actually a bet I like here, but the fight ends inside the distance. I kind of like a little bit here at plus 100. And Big Marley. I don't know about Edgar, but I was not impressed by what I've seen out of Alexeva. What do you think?
Sorry, I got distracted. I was in Discord. Vince posted a picture in there. Took my thought away. But
Vince, stop messing with the pot.
But yeah, I wasn't impressed with this Alexeva girl either. I don't even know why she's here. I thought, like, this has got to be a short notice opponent. Why is she facing a fairly UFC veteran who's decent? And they call her Russian Ronda, I guess. She's got one arm bar. But she was, I guess, on the judo scene
a little bit like visually, she looks a little bit like Ronda.
Not anymore, man. She cut her hair. She's got
Yeah,
hair
she looks like
close to
Blanca
mine
from Street Fighter
now.
2.
Oh,
So she don't look anything like Ronda.
that was my favorite
but
character,
I guess
by the way.
she's like a silver medalist in judo. So that's why they call her Russian Ronda. But man, I've seen her taken down and held on the ground by not good fighters. So I think this is all Edgar here. I think maybe Homegirl can get an armbar from guard, but she's real sloppy on the feet. She would have needed to make a lot of improvements there. Edgar's not even very good on the feet, but she should have a big edge over this girl. Edgar's going to be the better wrestler. I think Edgar's got the better arm bars. Give me Edgar. Edgar's going to be one of my favorite plays. She's also scored over 100 points in all of her wins, which is good.
Yeah, Monk, this is a Monk special right here. People think that you don't play the female fighters, they don't score well, but Edgar has proven that wrong. She's got in her wins 110, 109, 104. She scores when she wins.
Oh, she scores very well when she wins 100%. She's outscoring her opponents, excuse me, pretty much everywhere, especially when it comes to inside the distance. She's got great value overall. She's a bit more expensive this week at 9,400, but guys, look who she's fighting. This woman has like 5 or 6 professional, I think 5 professional quotes, hard quotes there, fights. She's like only 2 years younger than Stephanie Edgar, and she's making her UFC debut in the bantamweight division at 32 years old against Edgar, like I said, who has several fights against UFC veterans. Yes, there's some, Jessica Rose Clarks are in there. There's a couple, Aylin Perez, who I don't really think is that good yet. Maybe she'll prove me wrong. But she's also got fights against Mayra Bueno Silva, Tracy Cortez, women that have been in the UFC, established in the UFC, in this division for quite a while. So I don't think this is much of a play or much of a fight here for Irina Alexeva. Price picks under for Stephanie Edgar, 14.75 minutes. That's what Stephanie Edgar's over under for fight time is. So wow. I would highly suggest the under on that one. I think she finishes this in the first or second round, probably by submission, and we'll get Irina Alexeva the heck out of here. Like Marley, this is one of my favorite plays on the card at 9,400 because, like you said, Kevin, when she wins, she scores well.
This lady does look like Ronda. Like in this photo, I see what they're talking about. But when people see Russian Ronda, they're not understanding that is a nickname based on what she looks like,
no,
not on what she fights like.
It's based on her judo credentials.
I think it's because she looks like Ronda.
No, I mean I thought so too, but so I had to Google it.
Oh, all right, because I mean she looks similar to her. I haven't seen where are these. I guess she got an armbar here, but only one.
Yeah,
I mean,
all on the judo scene. So
0-2, 0-0. 5-5, takes an L to an 8-6. This is where you should be like, wait a second.
She also has the worst strength of schedule out of everyone on the card by far.
Yeah, but she's taken losses. Now that was 2019. Yeah. I don't know. She's had. I think
that girl. I mean, that girl was like a poor version of Stephanie Edgar too. I would say.
Lilia Kazak.
Yeah,
I mean, there you go. I like that Edgar.
It's got to be. Yeah.
I like that Edgar goes for takedowns. I like that she has submission skills. I think she will win by submission and score really, really well. There aren't that many pay-up options on this card, guys. It's basically Edgar or Caio Borello. And Caio has never had a good DraftKings score. So, there aren't too many options. You'll see when we get to that top zone. All right. Next up. Charles Johnson taking on Cody Durden. Johnson minus 140, Durden plus 120. Fight goes the distance minus 170. So this one is leaning to going the distance. Big Marley. This is probably, this is an important one on this card as well. You get an underdog at minus 120 for 7,500. That's always nice. Sometimes when there's an underdog like that and they win, I don't have to play someone like Journey Newsom for the similar price. So how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick Johnson in this one because I do think he's got a pretty big striking edge. He's going to be a long fighter. He knows how to use his range. And if he can keep the fight on the feet, I just think he's going to be able to win 2 rounds. But I'm not interested in that in DraftKings. He's not going to score well unless he gets a first round knockout, probably. So I'm more interested in Durden on DraftKings because he is live in this matchup, but he's going to have to wrestle. I just don't feel good about it enough for a bet, but I feel good enough about it to play him over someone like Newson, because if Durden wins, I feel like he's going to score 10x or more. And it's going to have to be mostly through the ground for at least 2 rounds, because I just don't see how he beats Johnson on the feet. I mean, both these guys kind of slow down. I didn't think Johnson slowed down prior to his last fight, but he definitely looked a little tired in his last fight. But I've seen Durden slow down more than that, so I feel like that's a wash to me. So I don't even know who's going to win the 3rd round. It could be all Durden winning all 3 rounds with wrestling. So I would just rather take my chances on the guy I'm picking to lose, which is Durden, because if he wins, he probably scores well. But I really don't have any interest in Johnson at 8,700. He scored 83 in his 1 decision win. He could have won his last fight, and if he did, he would have only scored, I think, 64. Those just aren't going to cut it, especially at 8,700. And I just don't think he's going to knock out Durden early. If he wins a decision over Durden, he probably scores 60 points. So I'm going to pass on Johnson, and I'll take some. I'll probably be pretty high on Durden, actually, even though I'm picking him to lose.
Monk, you could see here, Durden has scored pretty well in his wins. 5 takedowns against, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. And then, another 4 takedown fight in his most recent one. Got the quick finish against JP Buys. I think you almost have to throw that one out as a weird guy who didn't belong in the UFC or something. But as far as Durden, here's what I see. And I mean, I see some stats here. And you've got a guy who's hitting 4 takedowns per 15 against a guy with a pretty mediocre 60% takedown defense. I mean, is there more to worry about here than this?
Well, I'm with Marley here, except I am going to pick Durden outright to get the win over Johnson. I'm going to have a ton of him rostered as well. Like you said, Johnson does not score well. He's getting outpaced 2.72 to 4.5 points per minute. Inside the distance, it's 1.4 to 6. He's allowing 6 points a minute inside the distance. And guess what? Cody Durden scores over 5 and allows less than 1. That's where he scores all of his points. He's outscoring his opponents 3-1, 4.8 to 1.9 allowed. Johnson has a 57.5% takedown defense. He controls only 19% of the grappling time he's involved in, while Cody Durden controls 92% of the grappling time he's involved in, and that's been 61% of his 3-round flyweight fights at the UFC level. So I absolutely love Durden. He's also made the optimal 2 out of 4 fights since 2021 at the weight class. So his upside is off the charts for me. Meanwhile, Charles Johnson has next to no upside here. When he lost to Makhachev, he gave up almost 120, and that was a very grapple heavy game plan, obviously, that Makhachev brought into things. I think Cody Durden, with a decent fight IQ, could really do the same thing, really limit the striking advantage that Charles Johnson has, and turn that length into a real liability if he can get him on the ground. So give me Durden for the pick, and give me Durden for a ton of him in DraftKings. I absolutely love the play at 7,500, a potential ton of value here. I
mean, someone knows something. All the money has come in on Durden here. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody knows something, or it's just exactly what you just said. Like, oh, wow, Charles Johnson's really not that good at grappling, and Cody Durden only wants to grapple. And so, I mean, you got to throw out the Makhachev thing. Like, the Makhachev will whoop Cody Durden too, right? And he'll grapple the shit out of him.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. There we go. So I didn't see it. But Cody Durden does that same style. And as long as he does it here on Johnson, he's going to have a very good chance of winning this fight. And I think that's why the line moved. Yeah, Johnson is a better striker, probably. Johnson probably a better shot of knocking him out. Listen, we got a main event that kind of looks like this.
Yeah. And I think a reason I'm going to be high on Durden is because I don't really have a strong read on this. So it's almost like I'm trusting whoever's betting Durden up's read more than mine.
I would love to see it flip. If it flipped, I would be like all in on this spot. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, it was just like a bad line. Like you should have been betting Durden, because if this comes to the decision, and it's supposed to, and he gets 3 takedowns, you never know what the judge. Like he could be getting pieced up on the feet, but like you get a takedown, you win the round. That's it. I mean, it's not hard to win a decision if you're the better grappler and the other guy can't stop a takedown. That's how you win decisions. So yeah, I'm on the Durden side here as well. I think he's one of the better underdog plays on this card. I love the grappling upside. I love the opponent not being that good at the grappling. I like the price. I like everything about this spot for Durden. All right, next up, we've got Martin Buday taking on Jake Collier, or as they call him in France, Jake Collier. I don't know if you knew about that, Monk. Collier in France. This is a pick'em fight. -110, both sides. Fight ends inside the distance. -115. So pick'em. They're giving us nothing. The odds makers are just like, we don't know. They set the line at -110. They've got the inside the distance line at -115. Even odds. Big Marley, why are the odds makers so confused about this fight? They don't know what to do.
I think it's because you can't really trust Jake Collier, I guess. And then Martin Buday, he got gifted a win in his last fight. He should have lost, but the judges they don't know what the hell they're doing, so they gave him a win. But I don't know, man. I thought skill-wise, Jake Collier is the better fighter, like everywhere. I think Jake Collier is going to be the more technical striker, the higher pace striker, probably throwing the harder shots. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's a better grappler. But I think that he slows down as the fight moves along for sure. It doesn't look good. And he's not going to do much once he does start slowing down, but he can fight through it and he can still kind of fight at Buday's pace. So I'm going to be on the Collier side in this one, but I think that Buday could just kind of put his size on him, maybe wear him down against the cage. And if Collier does slow down, that's probably when Buday starts to pick it up. But I don't know. I feel like we're going to need a knockout on the Buday side just because he's not high enough volume. He's really not going for any takedowns. So I'll probably pass on him, and I do like some Collier. I thought he looked really good in his last fight up until he gassed out, and what's his name, big boy Chris Barnett got on top of him and finished him. But I feel like in that first round, his skills looked twice as good, at least, better than Buday. So I'm going to be on Collier. I think that he'll learn from it, and a different ref, he would have won that fight, and he would have never gassed out. But I also think that he gassed out because he tried to finish the fight like 2 or 3 times in that first round. And a big boy like him, you just can't throw that much volume for 3 rounds. So I'll take Collier to win a decision here. But he could submit this guy. He could knock this guy out. I think he's got paths to high scores. But even in a decision, I think he's good for 10x. So I like Collier.
Interesting. I'm a little surprised there. Monk, what do you say?
I think this is a fight I'm going to try to fade in general. For the most part, Buday simply doesn't score anything, and he allows even less. This is probably, chances are this goes to a 3-round decision. I'm personally picking Buday to win by an extremely boring fight. I just simply can't trust Collier at favorite odds with what happened. Chris Barnett's like the second guy in history to miss weight at heavyweight. He can't even see for half the fight. And he ends up finishing Jake Collier in the second round after Collier, just redefines the term death gassing as he did there. But like Marley said, everything he said is right. He tried to finish the fight several times, just couldn't do it. I don't know if he's going to be able to try to find a finish on Martin Buday, but I think we're going to see 2 pretty tired guys in the end of the 3rd round here. And I think that fits Buday's game plan. I think he's probably going to win, 2 rounds to 1. And just kind of cruise. So I'm going to be looking to fade this one. If Collier was an underdog, I'd probably be looking to get him in more lineups, but it just turns out that he's not. So I'm not really on this fight. I hope that it finishes in decision, goes to decision, and somebody scores 60, 70 points, much like the first fight of the night we were talking about. That's what I'm kind of hoping for here.
Yeah, I get why the odds makers can't make a decision. These guys, I was heavy on Collier against Barnett.
Oh yeah, same here. He showed me a lot about
do not
what
trust.
He can't do. Yeah, exactly.
Do not trust this man. You can't be trusted. You can't lose to a 5'7" heavyweight. You just can't lose to a
half
heavyweight.
blind one that also missed weight. That is a bad look.
You can't take that L, Jake. But
I
at
think
the
he like might have broke homie's eye socket and his jaw. Like he's sitting there with one eye closed and his jaw
And he's
hanging
like
open.
doing
He still
something
lost
weird.
to him.
Yeah, and he still gets the
wasn't a good look.
finish.
I mean, it was rough. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lean here. I don't have a side. I don't know. I'm not impressed by either guy. Buday, even though he hasn't lost, just didn't look that good in his wins. So I mean, I guess he beat Barnett and Collier lost to him.
Yeah, there's your math.
I mean, if you need the math, it's right there. It's right there for you. But I agree with you guys. I don't think this is going to be one of those fights that scores particularly well. So for me, light exposure, just a little bit to each side for the early finish possibility. But if there's no finish, these guys are striking at 5, even 6 strikes per minute. Let's say they land 6 and you're talking 90 strikes landed. Still not enough. Still not enough. 35 points from that, 37 points. And then the 30, it's just not enough. You're talking a 65, a 70. It's not getting you there, especially with a free square hanging out. That's locked into 75, like a better score in a decision than this one. So for that reason, for much cheaper salary, for that reason, that is a fadeable fight outside of the early finish possibilities for me as well. I believe I'm trying to think if I took an under on fantasy score for one of these guys on Prize Picks, whichever one might have been there. I believe I took the under. So I think one of them is there, and maybe Buday, and I just took the under. All right. Next up, we've got Josh Quinlan taking on Trey Waters. Quinlan minus 180, Trey Waters plus 150. This is a late replacement as well. So I believe Trey Waters is the late replacement in this one.
Yeah, and he just made weight like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, so this guy fought literally like last week. I mean, his last fight was the 14th. It is the 26th. So that is less than, it's 12 days ago. So he will have fought. This will be his second fight in 2 weeks, Big Marley.
Yeah, sure will. And he's a big boy, man. He's like 6'5", cutting down to 170. Like, I don't think he's going to even make weight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this feels like asking for trouble. This feels like a fight that might not get to be on this card when all said and done. I'm trying to see if there's anything in his record here. So, I mean, the one thing I take away from his record is it ain't good. Like 1-8, 0-0, 1-5, 7-6, 1-0, 3-0. So basically, he's only beaten turds, and then he had one acceptable win against the guy here, at least with a decent record. So that's all we know about Trey Waters. Really not a whole lot. So Big Marl, what can you tell me about Quinlan and why he's going to put a beating on Trey Waters?
Well, I don't think that's the case, actually. I think that Quinlan, this is a striking affair. I think both guys are just strikers, really. Quinlan's got bombs in his hands. He knocks out. All of his wins are finishes. I think he's got like 2 submissions. The others are knockouts. And you could tell he's got power. But if he's not landing that knockout, I'm just not sold on this guy being that good. And I think that Waters is going to be the taller, longer, better at range striker. And I think if he can stay conscious in this one, I kind of like him to be the minute winner by pushing forward, landing a little bit more volume, kind of keeping it range, throwing the jab out, throwing some front kicks, and just using his size in this one. But I don't see a high ceiling unless we get an early knockout for these guys. I haven't seen what's the fight doesn't go to decision on this one, because I think that's really what's going to decide it all. I would imagine it's
massive, minus 265.
Yeah. So I think
you got to play it.
Like, we're playing for the knockout, yeah. But I think Quinlan will be the popular one because everyone's seen his power in the UFC. I don't know, man. I'm one that likes to fade power, so I'll get more Waters in this one. I'm picking Waters to get the win. I think he could get a knockout as well, but I think that if this goes 15 minutes, he might be our more likely winner. So give me the underdog.
That is a very contrarian, I think, take from Big Marley.
But he is fighting on a week's notice. He made weight 2 weeks ago. He got cracked in that fight too. Like he almost lost, and then he like finished the guy pretty quick after he got cracked. But it's not good when you're making weight that close to each other. Plus, who knows what? Maybe he had a concussion. Who freaking knows? I don't know. But skill to skill, I was more impressed.
I mean, skill to skill is one thing, Big Marley, but he did cut weight a week and a half ago, and he's going to cut weight again. I don't know that the
say
body
he
is
misses weight by 6 pounds though, and they still fight. I don't know that that's a bad thing.
I guess this is a let's wait to the weigh-ins and kind of see how it goes down, because you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do after you win your fight, Monk? What do? You just won your fight. Are you like in the training room the next day?
No, not well. Some guys are, but I would assume that he's eating whatever he wants for at least a day and a half.
It's not a day and a half. It's like you're celebrating. Like, I trained, I've won. Now you're gonna exhale. It takes a week and a half of exhale.
Probably had a slice of pizza in his hand when he got the call.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This dude was sitting around eating slices, like, yo, extra pepperoni. Next thing you know, the UFC calls, and you don't say no to the UFC. He wasn't in the UFC before. He wasn't even in line to get called up to the UFC. This is not a guy who had some sort of a record that like the UFC was calling. He lost his Contender Series fight. Like, you know, he was not on the Rolodex. I don't know why he's here. But nonetheless, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. What do you think, Monk?
He's also not just your average welterweight fighter. He's 6'5". That has to be, immensely more difficult than if you're a 6 foot heavyweight or a welterweight to cut this much weight twice in a row. I mean, that automatically I'm fading at that point. But we've also got Josh Quinlan, who has only one UFC fight, looked great in it, beat a guy that has several UFC fights. He didn't beat a newcomer. Say what you will about Jason Witt. He's got several UFC fights fighting guys at this level, and he got flatlined in 2 minutes by a newcomer. So I'm gonna lean Quinlan. I don't have a ton of stats either way, but I'm just gonna fade Waters based on his sheer size, the fact that he's cutting weight twice. We've all mentioned it already. So I'm going to be big on Quinlan this week, and he's coming in at $8,500, guys. This is a steep discount. They could have had him come in at like $9K, but they didn't. They gave him the $8,500 price tag. I think the potential value here is too good to pass up. So give me Quinlan. I'm just going to probably fade Waters, even though $7,700 is a good salary to play. The last thing I'll say about this is maybe you just lower your exposure as a whole 10-15% to this fight, because this could easily, somebody could miss weight and then they say, okay, the fight's still happening. And then what happens on Saturday? The fight gets pulled 2 seconds before the card starts. Everybody throws a fit. Oh, I had 50% Quinlan. Oh, I had 30% Waters.
Yeah, this is the leader in the clubhouse for that.
Exactly. Wait to do your lineups until at least until weigh-ins, guys.
That's the beauty.
Even then, proceed cautiously.
That's the beauty of the DFS Army domination station. You can make that swap as long as it's not 5 minutes after lock.
Yeah, right.
If it's 5 minutes before lock, just rerun it. Unfriend you.
150 lineups like that. Boom.
Yeah, I unfriend you just like that. Just uncheck it. Listen, I'm not going to ignore a fight that has a minus 365 fight ends inside the distance proposition. That is too good to ignore. Quinlan inside the distance minus 120.
Yeah.
50-50. That's a 50% implied probability.
How is that possible if the fight is minus 365? How is he only minus 120?
Inside the distance, and Waters is plus 220, and somehow that adds up. Listen, get Statsational on here, break down the math. I got no problem with that, but I'm just telling you what's on the screen here, unless I'm reading something wrong. So he's minus 120 to end win inside the distance, but Waters is not that bad, plus 220, by the way, which isn't bad. That's like an implied probability of what? 33, 35, 30%, let's say. So got to get some Waters exposure as well on this fight that should end early, at least according to the bettors. And if you don't think it's going to end early, you can get plus 275 if you want to bet that.
I'm definitely down with Quinlan exposure, but I also, he's 6-0, all finishes. Like, these guys who don't have much fight time don't tend to do well in the UFC, but fortunately for him, I mean, he's not fighting a UFC fighter. So,
well, that's what it
I
is.
don't know.
We're
I
not-
think that a lot of lineups are going to have Quinlan and Newson, and I'm fine getting away from both of them. I think I'm going to be contrarian this week. I'm going to load up on the main event and then probably have a lot of Stephanie Edgar, and then I'll just do whatever the hell else the DS wants me to.
I have a theory with the main event that involves Song Yadong winning but not being in the nuts lineup. I have a theory. We'll talk about it when we get to that one.
All right.
There's a scenario. Not super likely, but it is there. All right. Next up, we've got oldie but a goodie, Marcus Rogerio de Lima, back again, taking on Walter Cortez Acosta, where De Lima is minus 180 and Cortez Acosta is plus 160. The fight ends inside the distance, minus 205. I'm a little surprised here. I thought the number would be higher. Let's see here. If I can get a De Lima inside the distance. Here you go. De Lima inside the distance, plus 120. Cortez Acosta inside the distance, plus 315. Big Marl. I feel like De Lima is one of these fighters that I don't really know. I don't get anymore because he used to be the striker, and then I see him sometimes grappling. Sometimes he goes for takedowns, and he's like a good top position guy. What's he going to do here? Who is this guy?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I think he is a striker at heart because he's got like 14 knockouts, and I don't think there's any better feeling than a knockout. So when these guys get it, like Curtis Blades gets a knockout, and he's like, fuck wrestling. I'm just going to start striking with these guys. I kind of feel like that's what De Lima falls into. But he looks, if he's not getting the knockout, he looks better on the ground. He's definitely dominant when he gets in top control on the ground in round one. But when he grapples, he slows down. So it's like you need to get that finish in first round if you're going to start wrestling early, because you're probably not going to make it 15 minutes if you do wrestle early. He's 37 years old now. That gas tank's not going to be getting a whole lot better. He has been going to decisions. But I think in round one, he is going to be the better fighter, the much more well-rounded fighter. He could look to wrestle, which he doesn't look to wrestle that much either. That's kind of a problem, in my opinion, because I think Acosta is the better 3-round striker in this one, and he can fight at a pace that De Lima cannot match. I don't even remember how many strikes he landed in his last fight against Chase Sherman, but it was like 160 or something like that.
That's Sherman.
147. I mean, it's Sherman, but still, like, De Lima's not landing 147 strikes on Sherman, on anybody. Like, De Lima couldn't land 147 strikes on the punching bag in 15 minutes. So I just don't think that the longer this fight goes, what I'm saying is it's going to favor Acosta. And I think that he's live for a second or a third round knockout as well. He hasn't had a knockout in his first 2 fights in the UFC, but he's got power. I think he's definitely live for the knockout. It's just that De Lima, if he wins, he's very live for a first round knockout, 100 plus points. He's also live for a first round submission, 100 points. And I don't know how Acosta, like, he hasn't shown to be good on the ground in past fights, but who knows how good he is now. Maybe De Lima can have 3 rounds of wrestling success here and score well. So I don't know. I like this fight as a whole, but I'm going to take Acosta to survive the first round storm and then make it his round in round 2, and then him dominate round 3 or possibly finish. So I'm going to be on Acosta in this one, but it's a fight that I'll be targeting heavily on DraftKings.
Monk, what do the numbers say on this one?
Well, the numbers say, let's see, I don't mind the Acosta pick. I'll be on the other side, but the numbers say don't really play Waldo Cortez Acosta. He's fought 2 guys so far. Chase Sherman, and somebody said, oh, my Chase Sherman's terrible, which I agree with. He also fought Jared Vandera, arguably the one guy, well, other than Harry Hunsucker, that's worse than Chase Sherman on the roster. And this dude Acosta, not only could he not finish him, but he's averaging like 7. He's not even 10xing, not even, he was close to 10xing against Sherman. But this dude scored less than 60 points in a win against Vandera. He landed a ton of volume against Chase Sherman, but Marcos Rogerio de Lima, even at 37 years old, has some of the best defense overall pace, allowing just 1.59 points per minute at heavyweight. At distance, he allows 0.64 points a minute at heavyweight. This is over 9 3-round heavyweight fights. So he is not allowing any kind of points at all. When he loses, he's only giving up 82, which is pretty much a little bit more than what Cortez Acosta is scoring. That said, Cortez is cheaper this time, as he should be, going against an actual UFC fighter. He's only 7,600, but I'm going to have to see it from him before I start rostering him. So I like Rogerio de Lima. He hasn't fought much better competition, to be completely honest. I mean, he has names like Andrei Arlovsky, but that was, Arlovsky's like 57 years old. Blagoy Ivanov, Ben Rothwell was pretty much retired. Maurice Green, same kind of deal. But Rogerio de Lima is making it count. He's been to the Optimal lineup in 3 of his last 4 fights. So I'm only interested in one side. It's the Rogerio de Lima side, averaging well over 100 points per win, well over 13 value. He's got some of the best DK upside on the card and some of the best DraftKings defense on the card as well. So I'd be shocked if Cortez Acosta, I wouldn't be shocked if he won, but I'd be shocked if he landed anywhere close to 150 strikes on Rogerio de Lima.
Yeah, good point.
It's hard to ignore the last 3 scores that de Lima put up in his wins. Now, each one of those has a story. Fast finish against Arlovsky, okay. Rothwell, fast finish.
True. Those guys are super old, though, so I won't take, I expect some backlash on that, but
very flawed. But I mean,
sure.
We're dealing with these kind of turds. He's losing to guys who are good, like Romanov, and Blagoy is a tough out for anybody. But when he goes up against these shitty guys, and I'm sorry, but that's kind of this group. Wieczorek is in that class. Jeremy Kimball. Is Jeremy Kimball any different from any of these other guys? They're all at that bottom level of heavyweights in the UFC. And Rogerio has dealt with them. He beats those guys. We don't know Walter Acosta what he's up to because he never has fought anybody. He hasn't had the chance. This is technically a big step up.
It is. It's going to tell us a lot too. If Waldo comes out here and really does something, then I will have no problem switching my opinion on him for sure.
Yeah. You beat this guy now. Okay. You're not beating the worst guys. You're beating like the second level of the level better than the worst, somebody who could beat Andrei Arlovsky basically. That's Andrei Arlovsky has been that gatekeeper. At this point, Andrei just doesn't give a shit anymore. But at one point, he was the gatekeeper for, like, are you an acceptable heavyweight? So, yeah, we'll see. I'm going to lean Rogerio de Lima, though, as well. Walter, Acosta, Cortez, Acosta needs to prove it before I believe it. All right. Now, we get one of my favorite guys in the next fight when he's an underdog, but unfortunately he's a favorite, and it's less exciting for me. But you got Juicy J Erosa minus 130 taking on Fernando Padilla plus 110. This is another one, by the way. You want to talk about? Let's just bring it in for a second. Another fight where you get a cheap fighter that's plus 110. We live in last week all over again. I feel like it's Groundhog Day, because here's another close fight, and Padilla is like what, 7,400 on DraftKings, 7,500. There are a lot of cheap options here that aren't named Journey Newsom that have like decent 48% win probabilities. Like, it's not that different. But again, we got Fernando Padilla plus 110. Sorry, I had to go off on that because it's important to understand how this card. That's how this card is going to be. You have other options. Fight ends inside the distance, a solid minus 215. That's the kind of numbers we like. Big Marley, when Juicy J has won, he's scored pretty well. But, we've also liked him as an underdog, scrappy underdog. Now he's favored by a little bit. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's a good fight to target because it should be a pretty high-paced fight. Erosa's good everywhere. He's a high-paced striker. He's decent wrestler. He's a good grappler. He's just got a bad chin. And he's been knocked out like 6 times or something like that. So I think Padilla is very in play for the knockout. He's got good forward pressure, good straight shots. He's good in the clinch. He's got good elbows. I think Padilla could knock him out. And Padilla also has, I think, 8 submissions, like a lot of chokes, because he's always getting taken down by guys. So he could possibly be the first one to tap out Erosa. But Erosa has 12 submissions, and neither one of these guys has ever been tapped out. So I just can't rely on a submission from one of these guys. Either one of them could get it, I guess, but we haven't seen either one of them submitted. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think on the feet, it's going to be very close volume wise. But I think Padilla is very in play for the knockout. So I'd probably favor him in a striking match. But I think his takedown defense is a weakness of his. And I think Erosa could exploit that. And if he does, I like him to be able to win 2 rounds on the scorecards. And if he doesn't, I mean, if he gets a knockout or a submission, even better. But Erosa's a guy who can fight at a pace where he can still score well in a decision. It just sucks that we're paying 8,800 for him, and now he's minus 130. So money's coming in on Padilla. I didn't really have that strong of a read originally. I'm kind of maybe shifting over to Padilla as well. So I think Padilla is my new preferred play on DraftKings with the new line. Maybe he could get a knockout, but that's his ceiling is the knockout. He's not going to go out there and get takedowns on Erosa. And I would be shocked if he got an early guillotine to score well. So knockout or bust to score 100 points, but he's cheap, like you mentioned. He can score 10x in a decision.
Yeah, and the fight has a pretty high inside the distance prop, so somebody could get knocked out. Monk, I don't have a lot of stats on Padilla. Do you have any sort of scoring stats or anything about this guy?
Not really for him, but I do have some interesting stats for Julian Erosa. Now, bear with me. He's 28-10 as a pro, 6-6 in the UFC, 3-2 in his last 5. But in 3-round featherweight fights in the UFC level, he is 1-5. 1-5 record. His one win, he scored a ton of points. It was the very early finish against, I don't remember, 131 points is what he put up in that one. He's getting outscored. It's not even close from absolutely everywhere. 2.17 points overall, allowing 4.72. At distance, he's getting outscored 2-1. And inside the distance, it's 1.574, 6 points per minute coming against him.
Wait,
so
explain this to me. You just said at
his last three of his last 4 fights are at catchweight. His last one was against Caceres. That was at featherweight. The 3 before that were all at catchweight. So I'm not counting that. 2 of his opponents missed weight. The 3rd one was listed at catchweight. Before that, he was at featherweight a bunch. He's only had 6 UFC fights that are 3-round featherweight fights, and he is 1-5 in those fights, and he's been knocked out, TKO'd in 4 of those 5 losses. So that's a long way of saying I'm giving Padilla a chance here. $7,400. Erosa also has a super suspect chin, loves to give up points. Even in his last 5, he's averaging 106 per loss. In his career, he's giving up 105 per loss. If Padilla can find the chin here early, I absolutely love the play at 7,400. And yeah, that's my big contrarian play this week is fading the shit out of Julian Erosa at 8,800.
I think it will be contrarian because you know what? Erosa has just scored really well. One of the interesting things about Erosa is he's scoring well in decisions, which is something I personally really like to see. You know, where there's enough volume there that he's getting there.
Guys that actually make their weight. That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
because Hakeem Dawodu missed. Steven Peterson missed. Charles Jourdain was also at catchweight.
But Jourdain's a good fighter too. I mean, like that's not some scrub. That's a guy that we all respect as a fighter. And so, I mean, getting knocked out by Caceres is crazy too. Yeah, this is a guy that cannot be trusted as a favorite. That's really what it like. You cannot bet on Julian Erosa when there's a minus in front of the number.
Yeah, he's not a guy you want to trust betting as a favorite, but at 8,800, only minus 130, that's going to take away from his ownership. So where you are okay trusting him as a favorite is on DraftKings at lowered ownership now.
Totally fine with that. But the other thing is bearing in mind that a lot of money is coming in on his opponent.
Minus 350.
I think the reason is because everybody's like, what the hell is Julian Erosa? It should never be minus 3. I don't care who he's fighting. Should never be minus 3. And then like other people are like, oh shit, I didn't get it at minus 350. Let me get or I didn't get Padilla at at plus 260. All right, I got him at plus 200. Like they're just chasing that money on Padilla. I don't know.
Steal on Padilla plus 260.
Speaking of fighters that I have no interest in putting my money on with a giant minus sign in front of their name, Rodolfo Vieira might be at the top of my list of people I don't trust. Endpoint. This dude has let us down in some big spots. Now we get Rodolfo Vieira minus 240 taking on Cody Brundage plus 200. Fight ends inside the distance is a massive minus 315. Big Marley, they're begging us. You got to play someone from this fight. And that's what the odds makers are telling us. Minus 315. You got Vieira, the crazy BJJ lunatic who gassed out more than once in his first fight. I'll never forget it. Who got submitted by Fluffy Hernandez, who's pretty good, but still, you're the BJJ superstar, the best BJJ practitioner. You got submitted by Fluffy. Now he's taking on a guy who's similar to Fluffy Hernandez, another grappler. Big Marley, what do you say?
Yes, submission or bust for Vieira at 9,100, but the biggest edge in this fight, I think, is Vieira's grappling in round one. If he gets a submission, it's probably in round one, and that's going to score well. Maybe it could come in round two also, early in round two. That could score okay, but he's 9,100. We probably need it to be in round one. It's just that the issue is Brundage is probably the better striker. Brundage is probably the better wrestler. So if Brundage can just use his wrestling to keep this fight on the feet, then I think he's live to win by knockout or just a striking-based decision like Curtis versus Vieira was when we all thought there's no way this one's going to decision. That one burned me for sure, so I don't want to be burned on this one by going all in, but I do like it. I like both sides of it. I think Brundage is in play for an early knockout or even a possible late knockout where maybe Vieira's accepting takedowns or flopping to his back with punches, you're getting knockdowns, whatever it may be with these jiu-jitsu guys. You never really know how they're going to get it to the ground if they don't have a wrestling advantage. But if Vieira gets one takedown, maybe that's all it takes, or maybe it's going to take two takedowns. I just think like if he can get the fight to the ground, he could probably get into a dominant position and submit this guy. So I'm picking Vieira to get the submission. But at the same time, Brundage is a solid kill shot. I would hope somebody picks him if Vince doesn't, if he hadn't already, because I think Brundage is very live for an early finish. He has both of his UFC wins are first-round finishes, scored well in both of those. I would say not only does he have the wrestling and striking edge, he's probably going to have a cardio edge too. So to see that minus 240 on a submission or bust guy, that's not something I would ever play. Just play the submission prop if you want to bet Vieira.
What is that submission prop? Vieira by submission plus 120. It's not even. Yeah, I think Vieira
That's
inside the distance
gap.
is minus 120 and something like that. So Vieira inside the distance minus 130. Yeah, I'd rather just go for the plus 120. I still can't believe that Curtis didn't knock this guy out. Like I got to give him some credit. Vieira stood in there, Monk, and he struck with Curtis with the action man. So
Yeah,
5 rounds striking, 3 rounds striking back.
I loved to see that, but that's mostly because I love to see Chris Curtis whine and cry on Sundays and Mondays on Twitter. But not because of anything against Chris Curtis. I'm just so used to it at this point.
I was going to say you got a personal vendetta with Chris Curtis.
No, I have nothing against him. It's just that's just how he reacts to when things don't go his way. It's always highly entertaining to read the next day. I think Marley did a great job on this one. I echo a ton of what he said. Vieira, obviously, you got to go with the first round submission here. That's going to be big odds. And unfortunately for us, everyone's going to be on that. I'd be shocked if Vieira at this point, we're probably going to get, at least 10 fights, hopefully. But at 11 fights, what's he going to be? There's only 3 9K guys. He could easily be 38 to 40% owned. And I do think for that reason, you got to go a bit under that. and you got to give some leverage to Brundage, and I think he is deserving of some of that. At 7,100, we're not expecting a ton here, and I think he can actually outperform his salary. He's decent, like you said, decent wrestler. Spends 70% of his total fight time so far fighting inside the distance. Only controls 31% of that time, but it's better than like 0 or better than I think 9. Was it Journey Newson had 9%? The other thing that I like here, Cody Brundage, when he wins, let's see, he is 2-2 in 3-round middleweight fights in the UFC. He's made optimal lineup in both of his wins. I know one was against whoever it was. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Dolce and Gore.
Dolce and Gore. So that Gore choke was nasty. I don't think Gore is anywhere near the level that people seem to think he is. And Dolce is a decent win, but I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. This is a long way of saying I think at 7,100, Brundage is worth something, worth a shot here. Worth a dog, worth a kill shot, if you will. Like I said, he's made optimal lineup in 2 of his past 4 UFC fights, so you absolutely love to see that. And Vieira has yet to make the optimal lineup in any of his last 3 fights since 2021. So, again, even with a first-round submission, if he's not scoring or if he doesn't take you down, even with a submission win, what's he going to get? 92, 95 points? At 9,100, you're gambling with the fact that you think he's going to make optimal. So I think at 40% owned is way too high. That's just what I'm projecting off the top of my head. So give me a bunch more Brundage than I would usually have.
Yeah, he doesn't have a history of scoring very well at all. He's putting up in those big early wins. And I mean, one of them was against like Sapabek Safarov, which is like basically a jobber, right? He got a 104. Okay, quick finish, fine.
Yeah, and he almost got knocked out in the first round.
Yep.
You are puckered if you're on the Vieira side of any sort of a bed, even on your DFS lineup. You are nervous from the second that fight starts until it's over. He starts opening his mouth, breathing heavy. He starts going for too many. You see those muscle? He's overly muscled, sucking all that oxygen out of his body. You could see it.
And he went all 3 with Curtis because Curtis is a counter striker. So he's usually a lot of that fight is both guys sitting back.
Curtis didn't, but Curtis wisely also didn't put himself in a position to get taken down. If you're a striker, you can't be wild against somebody who's looking to. It's like Damian Maia. You never unleashed on Damian Maia, because if you kind of let up even just a little bit, you'd get into trouble. So
I think Vieira failed like 20 takedowns in that fight.
That
it was quite a few. Yeah,
because Curtis can stop a takedown. Can Brundage stop? I say yes. I say Cody Brundage if he wants to.
Brundage is a big boy, man.
He's also a grappler. He's a grappler wrestler. Like he's got wrestling. He doesn't go into fights looking to stop takedowns. He's like, I want to take it to the ground. But in this situation, maybe if he comes into the fight, you never know. Part of it is fight. Like, will he come into the fight being like, I'm not going to the ground with this lunatic. Let's keep it standing. We'll take the win. I don't know that Brundage is being told to do. Like, what's his camp? Is he coming from a good camp? Is it, is he in like the MMA lab or what?
He's Factory X, right?
Mark Montoya, head coach.
Yeah, Factory X.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. Are they good enough, Big Marley? Factory X. They're going to get him ready and tell him, hey,
they're pretty good camp.
Don't let him take you down.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow camps too well.
No, there it is.
They got a decent roster for sure.
Okay. I think as long as if he's trained up to keep it outstanding, I think Cody Brundage has a real shot here. With all that being said, the high inside the distance prop, the grapple heavy nature of both of these fighters means you got to load up on this fight. I know it feels gross. I don't like rostering Vieira at all. It makes me feel scared, upset, shaken, but unsafe, triggered, a little bit triggered. But it is what it is. You got to play him because he's got the fast finish in his set of outcomes. And like I said, if he tries to get a bunch of takedown, he could gas out again. Anytime I see somebody gas the way he did 3/4 of the way through round 1 in a fight, yes, he's fixed that just a smidge, or has he? I don't know. He's been aware of it and just not gone crazy in the first round. I don't know that he's got better cardio. I just think he's aware of it, less nervous. I can come back at any time. All right. Co-main event, Caio Borello taking on Michal Olekseychuk. Borello, a minus 360 favorite, plus 300 on the comeback for Michal Olekseychuk. And the fight ends inside the distance. Solid minus 215. Big Marley, this seems like that really confident parlay piece spot with Caio. But maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. You tell me. I kind of think of Caio as like, all right, throw him in your parlay. Looks like a good spot for him to get this W.
Nah, I don't like his line. To be honest with you, I think this is a real close striking match here, and I'm not even sure he wins if it's a striking match. So that's why I don't like the line, but I do think he has a clear path to victory with takedowns. Olekseychuk does not have the greatest takedown defense. Borello's pretty solid at taking guys down and even getting their back and just controlling time. It's just for DraftKings, he doesn't do enough when he's on the ground. He's not striking. He's not laying these ground and pound that we would like to see. So he's kind of reliant on a submission on the ground. And then on the feet, he's definitely got power. He could get a knockout, but he's a karate style fighter. So he's not landing much volume on the feet. He's going to be taken away from the volume from Olekseychuk too while it's standing. So I'm going to get away from this one on DraftKings. I'm not too interested in Borello at 9,500. And I'd rather actually have Olekseychuk if I had to use this fight. But I don't think there's enough people that I'm going to have to pay up for to even have to use Olekseychuk. So I think this is a fight to fade for me. And I'll be hoping that since it's a co-main event, it'll soak up some of the ownership. But I don't know. It feels like a fight where Borello scores 75 points on a win.
I know Monk's going to bring this up, but I mean, Borello not exactly been lighting up the scoreboard in his wins. And that's with takedown. One of these has 4 takedowns and still only get to 80 points. Why does he refuse to do the little love taps that score those beautiful points when you're in top control?
I really, really wish I could tell you here. And one of those fights even was a technical decision. So, I mean, I guess you don't get finish points for that, but still, like, he's just not scoring well at all. And I'm absolutely torn. If you know me, 9,500, my favorite salary. It's 44% optimal, 93% win rate. I mean, come on. How could you not love that? But Caio Borello scores 78 points per win. That's it. 3.25 points a minute. Average value is not good. It's single digits. I'm really not interested in 9,500. I will be hard fading that salary this week. Well, I'll probably be able to talk myself into a little bit, telling myself that what if Borello actually finds the submission on Michal Olekseychuk and, gets it done in the first round and something crazy happened. But in 3 fights so far, the dude has put down the same exact game plan and has scored, not anywhere close to enough points to even sniff the optimal. I mean, 75, he was 9K against Muradov. 8,900, he scored 80 points against Petrosian. And 7,800, he scored 77 points against Godzi. So he is very consistent. It's not like one low score and one high score. Consistently sub 80 points. If I'm interested in anyone this week, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it's the $6,700 salary. Yes, the salary that has a 5%, sub 5% win rate, sub 5% optimal rate, has won twice against the $9,500 salary since 2021. Olekseychuk is one of the best scorers on the card at middleweight. In 2 middleweight fights, I mean, he's putting up crazy numbers, almost 9.5 points a minute, 20.5 points a minute at distance. I know that's not even 5 minutes of fight time because his last 2 fights have ended rather quickly and have been against one guy, I think it was Sam Alvey. So that has to hold no stock. I'm just saying, I think this line is too wide. I'm a fan of Borello. I'm hoping he comes out here and gets it done. But 9,500 is too much for what he's shown us. So I think there's some serious value, some serious consideration needs to be paid to Olekseychuk this week. He could find that chin at any time, and this dude's got power at 185, man.
I mean, he beat a different grappler.
Has some great DraftKings scores, like multiple 5 maybe scores over 100 points, even one with 148, but they're all first-round knockouts. So he is first-round knockout or bust to score 100 points. But we don't need 100 points at 67. Give us a third-round knockout. That'll be fine.
True.
I think it's important to really understand that we don't need the salary on this card. Like, this is not even a necessary thing. A couple weeks ago, we had that Gomes plus 130 for 67. That was like the best 6,700 fighter ever. But or her and Alexa Grasso. We've had a couple good 6,700s.
I think she was actually 68 or something.
Was it 68? All right. Well, sub 7Ks recently.
Yeah.
We don't need 60. I don't see Michal getting that first round finish. He could do it. I'm on the Kaio side here, and primarily it's because of the takedown defense of Olekseychuk. 43% is borderline horrible. That's as bad as you ever see. Like, you literally don't see a number worse than that, which means
it's 25% at middleweight.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's as bad as it gets. No, it's just like as bad as it is. So Borello can strike, and Marley, I agree with you. I think if he kept it striking inexplicably, it would be like a close fight. Maybe even Olekseychuk is better at that. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Got power. And if I just want to see what happens when he's gonna rush him. That should be his plan. He should rush him Sergey Pavlovich style and just try to put this dude out before he gets submitted. That would be my plan if I was him.
Would be the right move, and he's done that in his fights. But if Kaio gets the 43% takedown defense guy down, Borello's like better at top control than maybe some of these other guys. Like, I don't know that Olekseychuk is just going to get back up and we're right back at it.
No, probably not.
Yeah, he's going to keep him down. Like, that's part of him not throwing strikes is he pays attention to keeping control. So I don't know. I like Kaio here. I think he can get a record high score.
I want to say for Olekseychuk, some of that takedown defense is like 3 takedowns from Brundage, and then he knocked Brundage out. And then it was like maybe it was multiple takedowns from that Gadzamirov guy, and then he knocked him out in the first round too.
Yeah, but Gadzamirov always gets knocked out in the first round. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah.
Brundage, that's a great win. Listen, I like Olekseychuk. That's the thing. I think I was on the Brundage side of that fight for exactly the same breakdown reasons as Brundage is a grappler and he's going up against a 50, some low takedown defense guy. I remember that fight. And like, all right, Michal got it done. You going to do it again? I mean, okay. I'm just saying I like Kaio here. I think he's just got the grappling that you need to win this fight over the course of 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Maybe get a submission along the way. But Michal, yeah, he could stand back. He's a tough dude. The funny thing is Olekseychuk is normally the undersized one, but Kaio's kind of smaller than him. So these are both really, really small guys.
He's got an awesome neck tattoo as well.
What's that?
Got an awesome neck tattoo as well.
Neck tats are badass.
He looks like Paul Acosta.
Free spirit in like size 72 font across his neck.
I like that he wears the glasses.
In Fight Nerds. He's from Fight Nerds camp.
Yeah, trying to be like, yeah, there it is. Fight Nerds.
Yeah, boy. We'll see. If he can avoid that early power, he should be able to cruise here.
Yeah. I just don't like 80% almost betting line. I just think that's
I don't think you can parlay him though. I'd be scared.
I certainly wouldn't bet it straight up. But if Marley's telling me it's not enough value to parlay,
you can't parlay. If you can't bet it straight, you can't parlay it.
Need to suck a bet for every card.
I think Edgar would be I don't think
Edgar's in my card. Edgar's in my thing. Yeah.
But if I was looking for somebody for a future card, it would be Edgar.
I had Edgar with Natan Levy.
Natan Levy. He was the best player on the fucking slate.
Yeah, I love Natan Levy, man. I'm so pissed that fight is gone. That was the one I wanted.
Yeah, that took the wind out of my sails. I was like, I'm not even going to watch this card now. I'm pissed off. Like, I had a bet on him. Spoiler alert, I think they're fighting again in the future. If that line stays, I'm going to have a bet again on today.
I hope so.
Again, but
yeah. That was my spot too. I was like, Natan, who am I pairing him up with? Edgar, here we go. And then I was like, all right, that's the safe parlay. Then I add in a couple more spots for my silly parlay, and Kaio did make my silly parlay. So I'm keeping it real. All right, main event of the evening. Ricky Simone taking on Yadong Song Yadong Song. This was supposed to be like the co-main event last week. They canceled it. They brought it here. Now it's the main event of this card, which is really weird. So we're getting 5 rounds of action. And weirdly, even more weirdly, the lines have shifted, I think, based on the fact that it's a 5-rounder. And I think it's because there's more time for Song to get a knockout. 5 rounds where Simone just rarely finishes a fight. So it's back to pretty close to pick 'em, Big Marley. At this point, it's -122 for Simone. Yeah, it bounced down. It was -115 a little bit ago. So it's come down -122, but it's almost a pick 'em fight. +102 for Yadong. 5 rounds of UFC action. The fight ends inside the distance for a 5-rounder, -145. That is like a fairly neutral number. So, does your breakdown change based on the 5 rounds? Like, how do you see this going down?
So yeah, I think it changed. I mean, my breakdown really doesn't change too much. My breakdown is that I think they're both very well-rounded fighters, high-paced fighters, but I give the striking edge to Yadong, whether that be the minute winning on the feet or the power edge. And then I give the wrestling grappling edge to Simone. And I love Simone's wrestling pace as well. But with 5 rounds, can you keep up that wrestling pace for 25 minutes? And you're right. That's 10 more minutes for Yadong to get a knockout. And Yadong has serious power. He's a very good striker. His coach, Uriah Faber, has knocked out Ricky Simone in the past. I think Yadong's very in play for a knockout in any round, 1st through 5th. It's just that Simone's wrestling is so damn good and tiring and wearing on these guys that it's like Marab, where I just think he has the style to beat anybody as long as they can hold up for 25 minutes along with his chin. So I am going to go with Simone, but my handicapping has changed on this one. I think I was favoring him, like 57% or so on the first one, and now I think it's closer to it. So, I'm going to pick Simone, and more so on DraftKings because he just has slate breaking ability, especially with 5 rounds. If he can wrestle at a high pace for 5 rounds, this guy can score 140 points. So he has a ceiling that nobody else can really touch. But Yadong could blast him in the first 60 seconds and score 120. Yadong's a good wrestler too, man. He could get takedowns on Simone also. Since it's a mid-range fight, I'm just going to load up. I'll have this fight in at least 80% of my lineups, more likely 95% of my lineups. But you mentioned before we started the pod, or we might have been on the podcast when you mentioned it, that you think there's a path to victory.
There is
where Yadong wins
yes.
and he doesn't make I think that is in play. So that's why maybe you don't go all in. But if Simone wins this fight, he's on the optimal lineup. So I'll be heavier on the Simone side. I'll pick him to get a decision win.
If Simone wins, you can lock the nuts in on him. That is 100%. There is a scenario where Song wins the fight, but doesn't get there. And that is what you described, where Simone is kind of dominating with his wrestling. Sure, Song Yadong is landing 12, 14 strikes around along the way for those brief periods or less. But, it's round 4. It's round 4. He's piled up 30 significant strikes landed because he's been grapple dominated. And he just lands a haymaker in round 4, gets a knockdown and the win, but still just doesn't score very well. He gets a 40, 50, some points for the strikes, 65, 70 point win. That is in play for Song Yadong here. Monk, you're the numbers man, but Song Yadong, he's getting grapple dominated, right? We know Simone's going to do that. Maybe Simone, I don't even believe he gets tired. I've never seen him get tired, but like in round 4 or some point late in the fight, Song at one of these grappling, striking exchanges lands a knockout blow, knockdown, finish, 4th round, 40-point bonus. It's not enough.
I think it's the opposite. If someone finishes late, it's going to be Ricky Simone. I think Yadong needs a finish early. He needs to crack Simone and put him face down on the mat like Uriah Faber did all those years ago. I just don't know if that's going to happen, man. How much would you pay? How much would you pay for a guy who scores 5.2 points a minute, allows less than 1 point a minute, 110, 111 points per win, scores well over 3 points a minute in takedowns and control time, tons and tons, 4 out of 5 points over 100. I mean, you'd want to pay. Now you say I'd go 96 for this guy. Oh, what if I also told you? What if I also told you he's one of 3 fighters since I've been tracking. I have 831 fighters in my database since 2021. 831. 3 fighters. Yelton Almeida's 1 heavyweight. Well,
and Merab.
Heavyweight. No. Andre Petroski is 2. He is a middleweight. And Ricky Simone have at least 4 fights, 100% win rate, and a 100% DraftKings optimal rate. Ricky Simon has made optimal in all 4 of his past 4 fights since 2021. The guy is a scoring machine, and now you're telling me I get him for $8,400. He's going to be in 2/3 of my lineups. I'll play 100% of this fight. Song Yadong really does not score well. He is reliant on knockdowns, or else he does next to nothing. He doesn't even score 3 points a minute in his last 5. 91.87 per win over his last 3. In his career, his 8 wins, it's only 94.72. And he's 7,800 this week. Not only do I agree with you, he could win and not make the optimal lineup. He could win and not have the highest score in the fight. That said, I don't think he's going to win. I think this is Ricky Simone all day. I think he can wrestle for 25 minutes easy. And I think if he starts to land, Song's going to get tired. He's going to get frustrated. And there's not going to be anything he can do. So I'll have a bunch of this fight. Oh, also, it should be noted, Song Yadong has made the optimal lineup 0 times out of 5 attempts, compared to Ricky Simone's 4 out of 4. So optimal fighters fight optimally. I get this crazy dude at $8,400. I'm going to have a ton of Ricky Simone this week.
Yeah, I mean, I see Simone as like light Merab light. Like, I think Merab is better than him, but
Although he beat Merab.
Yep.
that's questionable.
Mm,
I watched it, so I don't agree.
I do.
It's
It was
fine.
certainly close.
Listen,
Homie was sleeping. He was seizuring on the mat.
when you take yourself out by getting a takedown and knocking yourself out because you put your head in the wrong spot, I'm not going to give that to your opponent. I'm giving that. Listen, I'm not counting that against my boy
Someone
Merab.
could say he doesn't
he's
deserve
from
to
the
win if
neighborhood.
he does something stupid like that.
He's from the neighborhood.
I'm a Merab fanboy.
That's
I'm a
my
Merab
guy.
fan.
But
for
what I'm
sure.
saying is, Ricky Simone's like a light. I always play Merab. You know me. I love Merab. 97. I don't care.
Simone will be my highest owned fighter on the card. And he should like
Absolutely.
not that he should be 9,500 because it goes off odds. But yeah, if we're talking like best DraftKings plays, he's the highest priced guy.
And Vince, who's in the chat, has a point. Like, I think Stamen. I think if it's Stamen versus Simone, I like Simone. I like Simone to get the takedowns in that fight too.
Mm-hmm.
So I would favor Simone, and Simone went sort of and Stamen is a similar fighter in the sense that he's a grappler, a wrestle heavy guy.
Uriah Faber knocked out Simone, so like
That's
you
true
can play
too.
that
Well,
game
anybody
both
can knock
ways.
out. I got to throw away the flash knockout. And by the way, that was another fight. I was so heavy on Simone. It was crazy.
God, me too.
I was shocked by that outcome.
Yeah, and
But
Song Yadong's a bad motherfucker. He could just starch Simone. Like if Simone fails his first 3 takedown attempts, I have a feeling it doesn't last much longer than that. He probably gets knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, I was leaning to Song eventually finding the win here. I was leaning to that coming into this discussion. I do still think that Song probably, there's going to be a lot of striking exchanges along the way. And he's also being trained at Alpha Male where they're telling him, this guy's going to try to take you down. You need to prepare for this. So I don't know if you could prepare for that and be successful at it against someone like Simone. Not too many people have figured that one out, but you never know. But that being said, I am much more interested in Ricky Simone as well on DraftKings because when he wins, he scores. He's in the nuts every single time. Whereas Song Yadong not getting there even in most of his wins. So, yeah, I mean, there's a 106, which I would have thought would have been the nuts, but it might not have been in that card. But he's had a good score or two on occasion.
He was 8K and 1, didn't make the optimal lineup. He was 8.4K, 1, didn't make the optimal lineup.
92, but he scored well. He scored well.
That was a card I think where there was just 2 crazy grapplers, heavy guys on it
you
or
can't,
something.
I'm not going to hold that against this guy. He's put up hundreds. Like, he's fine.
But I mean, really, if he gets a first round knockout here, it doesn't matter what the other people score. He's on the optimal lineup.
Yeah. Well, there's just fewer fights, but But like when you look at how he compiles the points, they absolutely do come from knockdowns and finishes. He's not piling volume on. There's no example here where like he scored well because he out-volumed someone.
And I would say that this is 5 rounds, so that changes that, but it doesn't because he's going to spend a lot of time on his back. He's not going to have 25 minutes.
There's no scenario where you fight Ricky Simone and you land 150 strike. Like you're on your back for a big portion of the fight. You're just
unless Simone's going out there trying to prove something, trying to strike for 5 rounds, then it would just be, you could stack the fight if that's the case.
I mean, come on, if he does that, or if Yadong can actually he stops takedown. He's like, no, I'm really good at this now, and then Simone gives up on it. But that exists as a scenario. By the way, we didn't even talk about what the. I'll wait till after. I
love this fight though. I'm so glad it's 5 rounds because last week, I was loving the fight last week, but for DraftKings, I was like, man, this could just be Simone or pass. We might not have to have this fight, but now with 5 rounds, you got to have this fight, especially on this shit card. Like,
well, imagine the card without this fight. What would it even?
If this fight got canceled.
I'm going to recommend that you don't go 100% on this fight. Take the full exposure to Simone that you want, but with Yadong, I'm going to give it if he wins, I'll give him a 60 to 70% chance of being in the nuts. Well, it's not 100.
In my head, I'm seeing 65% Simone, 30% Yadong.
I mean, that's fine, but that's 100% exposure to the fight.
95 gives me my chance.
I would leave a little more of a sliver of just didn't have that fight because I'm telling you.
I would say on another card I could, but I can't on this one.
I don't think
your favorite fighters on the card right here.
I don't think you can say this guy's 100% nuts in a win and say you cannot play this fight in the same sentence. I just don't. I think
Simone is 100% nuts in a win.
Right. And if he loses, that means Yadong's not going to win a decision. If Yadong wins, this is going to be an early knockout.
He's saying if he lost 3 rounds and then knocked him out.
I'm saying if he wins a late knockout, I think that's in play. I don't agree that can't happen. So for me, it's that late knockout that I'm worried about. And if he does get that, Simone dominates the first 3 rounds. He gets the late knockout in the 4th or the 5th. I don't think that's enough to get past 75 fantasy points, because if it plays out where Simone is taking him down and keeping him down, he's getting back up. Okay, and then he's taking him back down.
Percent?
He's not scoring when that's happening.
What's the percent of 4th, 5th round knockout for something like 10?
I think it's legit.
I would say
it's like
any other card, I'm more into that idea. But this card, my favorite play is Simone. My second favorite play is Edgar. My third favorite play is probably Song Yadong. So I just can't do it.
That's fair. All right. I'm gonna say not quite there for me with Song. But of course, if he gets the fast finish, he's going to be in the nuts. And what are we even talking about? Right? If he wins it in the 1st or 2nd round, he's there. It's the 4th rounder that I'm worried. The 4th and 5th round that I'm worried about. That's all. And I like to go all in. So when I say all in, I'm all in, like for real. I'm about 150 lineups, 180 line, and I am putting 100%. So to me, I like to identify spots where I think you cannot lose if you're all in. This is just not going that way for me. I think there is that slim scenario, and I don't think it's that crazy where Yadong gets the late finish and it doesn't score enough. So it's not. I don't think it's crazy. And when we go all in, I really want to be. By the way, last week Pavlovich Curtis Blades, that was an all-in fight. Like there was no scenario where that fight, the winner isn't getting in. That's 100%.
I was looking at my lineups before, and I was like, "Whoa, I have a lineup without this," and I got rid of it. I was like,
you don't want it. Yeah, I don't want it. By the way, what the fuck is wrong with Curtis? What an
idiot! I can't stand that guy anymore. He's dead to me.
He's dead to
betting. I didn't bet on him, but he's still dead to me for betting.
I did I bet on him? No,
killed
but
me on DraftKings. Like I was looking pretty good on Rainmakers.
The nerve of them to give us Sergey Pavlovich at 7,400. What a joke!
That was a great call. But you know what? Can we just get back to Curtis Blades being dead to us? Because like at some point, what are you doing in there?
In a video game, I'm smoking Pavlovich with Blades.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Is he uncoached? Does he not listen?
Yeah. I tweeted afterwards, like he needs to retire because he's too dumb. I didn't say he's too dumb for the sport. But in my head, that's what I was thinking. Or he just needs to fire his coaches, because what are you doing going for one half-ass takedown? And then some people are like, look, he did try and wrestle. Like, no, that's not what we were talking about. You keep going for it.
You got to go Marab Dawashvili style. That fight starts, you're on it. He keeps losing the same way. I think he's fucked in the head.
Yeah. And when you get knocked out that many times, like, it's just to a point, like, it doesn't matter if you want to smarten up in the future. Now it's only going to take a couple shots and you're going down.
I think he's fucked in the head. Like, he's too scared.
He's over. Like, he had title contentions. Now he's done. He'll never touch the title.
It's crazy. It's why he's going to be in Bellator soon. Like, this is where that's going.
Go win $1 million in PFL.
Yeah, like in the PFL. Then he'll be good again. He'll turn it around.
Just fucking roid up. Your chin will be fine.
Yeah, he needs to roid up. Go for takedowns, bro. What are you doing? It's a man. Anyway, all right. Kill shot time, guys. By the way, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Let us know you're out there. Guys who are watching, we want to know your kill shot. Give me an underdog that will be in the nuts lineup this week. They will win and be in the nuts. It's got to be an underdog.
No Newsom.
Newsom's not an underdog. Stop trying to cheat in the comments section. I see you guys. Newsom don't count. I didn't say under 8,200. I said underdog. Somebody low owned, ideally. So we're gonna go around. We're gonna give out kill. Last week I gave out Christos Giagos. All right. If you had Christos Giagos, you probably made some money. Right? I don't remember what you guys gave out. I don't remember mine.
My guy got headbutted and knocked out.
Bruno Silva, baby.
Oh, that was bullshit.
Oh, nice.
In fairness, though, your guy was
if we had your guys as kill shots, you won all the money.
Yeah, like Monk, who was your guy? Oh, did you give it? Well, you weren't on the show last week, but
you gave it in Discord.
Silva, yeah, Bruno Silva.
Yeah, Bruno Silva, great. So this week, we'll start with you, Big Marley. Give us the kill shot. Who's going to win us this tournament as an underdog?
I'm going to go with Cortez Acosta by knockout.
Wow. Okay. That is surprising, and I think he will be very low, and that is a solid kill shot right there. Monk, I will allow Marcus McGee if that's where we want to go.
Yeah, I'd rather pick Bobby McGee probably, but I'm going to go with I'm going to save $100 from Marley. I'm going to go with Cody Durden over Charles Johnson here.
Yeah, I like the Durden pick.
I like that as a nice safe play.
I probably would have went there. I think Durden will be a high owned underdog, and I like it. Since you're going that way, I'm going to take a little bit more risk with my kill shot than mayhaps I have in the past. I will say that I do like Padilla, but for the kill shot, I'm going with Brundage. I like Padilla. I will have a ton of him too, so I got to mention it.
Yep.
I'm also hedging a little bit by saying, hey, I also mentioned Padilla. But I like Brundage, man. I think Brundage would be low owned. Vieira is a disappointment factory. He just always seems better than he actually ends up being. So give me Brundage at low ownership to win me the tournament this week. Guys who are watching, let us know your kill shots. Oh, Vince is with me. Bro, you know that's a good sign right there. So Vince is with me on it. Brundage for the kill shot. I don't got any final thoughts. Simone song this Saturday. Meet us in the Discord if you're not in there already. Link in the description. Get in DFS Army Discord. We're talking fights all throughout the week. We got guys sharp. The Discord is filled. I say this every week, but I get real actionable information that I use straight out of our Discord from the guys who are in there. A lot of sharp people. Forget, we're there too, of course. We're getting our cheat sheets going. You got Eric, you got the whole crew, but also the MMA regulars, just sharp guys who really, really research these fights. They take it very, very seriously, win tournaments regularly. So you want to be in there. We want to talk the fights together with you. Hang with Big Marley, with Monk, with the crew, with myself, DFS Army Discord. Get signed up as a MMA subscriber. I believe that's promo code Sleeveless. 10% off. You get in there, get access to the Domination Station Optimizer. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you like these videos, let us know that you like what we're doing. There's somebody really nice out there that comments positive things. And I get all the good feels from it. I really do. It takes like one person saying something nice, and you're like, thank you. Thank you. For
I check before the fights every week, and I try and like all the comments.
Yeah. Hit us up on Twitter.
Not only do you get all that stuff with your membership and Discord, but you can go in and see these OnlyFans photos that Vince is posting and Discord, more for your money.
There are some fighter OnlyFans pictures.
Perks
occasionally get posted in there.
Oh.
I would never cheat on my only page account by having a different only anything. You can only I'm a monogamous guy.
Only.
It's only page for me.
Fair enough.
What are you gonna do?
Listen. Everybody's built different. Some people want to have like 10 OnlyFans that they're listen. I'm not that guy. I just have one. I keep it real. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Another kill shot. Good luck this week. Top of the leaderboards. What?